This is the scariest island in the world. It contains many strange things that can turn people into monsters. In ancient times, God created several statues to prevent monsters from emerging through Hell's Gate. After 1,000 years, people have forgotten about the statues. While some view it as a fictional tale, others consider it real. Among those who believes is a photographer. He is climbing the mountain with a couple for their wedding photo shoot. While exploring, the couple stumbles upon the statues of Dol Harabang. Out of curiosity, they touch the statues, causing a liquid to ooze out. Suddenly, the statues shatter, releasing black smoke. The smoke enters the bodies of the couple, transforming them into lust demons. Their eyes turn red, horns sprout from their skin, and they become vicious monsters. The groom attacks the photographer, but he's thwarted by a demon slayer named Van, who uses his powerful dagger to defeat the demon, who point out the bloodstains on the monuments. One of the priests explains that long ago, the world faced a grave threat from evil's power. The woman depicted in the monument was humanity's sole hope and protector against this darkness. Tragically, she couldn't fulfill her mission and was slain by a man believed to be a demon. Rumors suggest this man still lives, posing a threat. With the return of the bloodstains, it's clear that the world faces danger once more from evil forces. The woman has been reborn and holds the key to stopping them. The priest reveals that her destiny will bring her back to the island, where she will regain her memories and confront evil. He implores Johann to go to the island and aid the woman in saving the world from crisis. Meanwhile, we're introduced to a woman named Wamiho, who serves as the chairwoman of the Daehan group. She is confident and smart and adeptly handles criticism. However, she faces challenges in her life, notably with her aunt, who owns the Daehan Hotel. She argues with Minho about the ownership of the hotels, but Minho shuts the woman down by stating that most of the hotel shares are owned by her father. She also claims she is the only successor, and has every right to do what she wants with her father's hotel. While she and Secretary Kong are en route to an art museum, a car abruptly halts in front of them. The occupants of the other vehicle appear to be thugs, demanding an apology from Secretary Kong for a perceived mistake. When he refuses to comply, they seize him by the neck and compel him to apologize. Unable to tolerate the mistreatment of her secretary, Minho becomes furious. She forcefully pushes the man to the ground while another thug records the entire incident on video. The video went viral, and Minho faced strong criticism and boycotts from the public. This worries the shareholders, making things worse for Minho. She accuses her aunt of the incident, and the aunt appears happy, indicating she's behind the controversy. Anyway, Minho's father orders her to step down from her position and go abroad until the issue settles. Instead of sending her abroad, Mr. Jang suggests she volunteers at a school on Jeju Island for some peace of mind. With no other option, Minho agrees to her father's orders. She and Secretary Kong arrive at Jeju Island. Things start to get strange when Minho feels something as soon as she lands. Meanwhile, a woman named Baekju also senses her presence, indicating that Minho has some sort of close connection to the island. As Minho was finding her car in the parking lot, she witnesses a lust demon in a wedding gown devouring a human. The demon recognizes Minho and begins chasing her, aiming to end her life. Desperate to save herself, Minho hides behind a car, but the demon doesn't seem to back off. By unlocking the vehicle, Minho creates a diversion for the demon, allowing her to escape. However, the demon manages to spot her. A chase ensues until Minho locks herself up in a truck. Before she can understand what's happening, the demon pierces its arm inside the truck, barely missing Minho. As the demon is about to enter, Demon Slayer Van arrives to save her. A vicious fight erupts between Van and the demon. With his extraordinary powers, Van seems to overpower the demon. Meanwhile, Minho, still in the truck, notices demonic scratches on the roof. To her relief, Van opens the truck, having defeated the demon. Suddenly, Minho feels something again, causing her to pass out. The next thing she knows, she finds herself in a villa, surrounded by Secretary Kong and Mr. Jang. After informing them about the incident, Minho asks if Secretary Kong saw a man in a black suit in the parking lot. However, nobody knows about the guy as they only found Minho unconscious there. The woman Baekju, who sensed Minho's presence on the island, speaks to Van, mentioning that the child is here. She asks Van if Minho has recognized him. Realizing that Minho has not fully awakened yet, she wonders why Minho arrived on the island if it isn't for her past. A flashback takes us back to ancient Jeju Island. Van was a little kid when his village was attacked by lust demons. He was the only child who survived the massacre. At that time, monk Jongryung decided to use Van as one of his subjects. Every red moon, he would attempt to turn humans into demon slayers by injecting them with demon blood. However, he couldn't succeed in any of his experiments. Nevertheless, he didn't give up. During the next red moon, he took Van and the other children to a cave where they had captured a lust demon. The old man stabbed the demon, collected its blood, and sliced open the backs of the children to pour the blood into them. Of many children, only 2 survived, Van and Gunton. To make them as powerful as the demons, Monk began their tough training. Besides enduring torment from the royal guards, these young half-demons had to undergo rigorous training, including pulling giant rocks. A young girl named Wonjong witnessed Van being tortured and forced into becoming a demon slayer. Feeling sorry for the boys, she decided to rescue them. She sneaked into the prison and started unlocking the chains restraining the boys. Suddenly, Van was momentarily overtaken by the demon inside him, causing him to attack Wonjong. Despite being attacked, the girl understood Van and helped him escape the prison. The trio fled through the forest, seeking refuge where they could live out their lives. When the leader learned of their escape, he sent his royal guards after them. In the middle of their journey, Wonjong collapsed on the ground due to a wound on her arm. To aid the person who had tried to save his life, Van returned to the monastery. Though he helped Wonjong, he and Gungton couldn't escape the torture from the monk's guards. The following night, Wonjong visited Van in the prison and informed him that she would undergo training to become even stronger, with the aim of one day returning to help them escape the prison. Jang welcomes a guest to his villa, who turns out to be none other than the exorcist Johann. It is revealed that Miho was indeed the savior destined to protect the world from lust demons. Mr. Jang, who was also a priest, knew about Miho's identity, which likely prompted him to advise her to come to the island. Now, Johann will not only protect Miho but also help awaken her. Somewhere on the island, a person uses a similar dagger that Van owns and slashes his palm. He then places his bloody hand on a statue, releasing a lust demon. Desperate to leave the island, Miho heads to the airport, unaware that evil spirits are following her everywhere. When Miho tries to purchase a ticket, the receptionist tells her to wait, stating that she has orders from above. The possessed security guard approaches Miho, ready to end her life. Another security guard tries to taser him, but the lust demon remains unaffected. Seizing the opportunity, Miho escapes from the scene with the demon in pursuit. She steals a car, but before she can start it, the demon catches her. However, Miho kicks him in the face and finally manages to start the vehicle. Before Miho can escape, the lust demon leaps off the bridge and onto the car. Miho tries to shake off the monster by using the brakes and suddenly speeding up, but all her efforts are futile. The monster still clings to the car. Breaking through the window, it prepares to attack Miho. Things worsen when the car collides with a bollard, causing it to crash. Miraculously, Miho survives and seeks refuge in an abandoned building, but the demon soon finds her. Just as the demon is about to attack, a mysterious force kicks it away from her. This force turns out to be Van, who has used his magical dagger to defeat the demon. Realizing that Van is her only hope against these demon attacks, Miho implores him to protect her. A fight breaks out between the demon and Van. The lust demon stabs Van in the stomach, but it appears that Van isn't affected by the attack. He retaliates, utilizing his extraordinary powers to kick the monster multiple times. Then, he grabs a chain and wraps it around the demon's neck, pushing it away before pulling it towards him to deliver one final stab. After defeating the lust demon, Van prepares to leave but is stopped by Miho. She is filled with questions and seeks answers. When she inquires about the creatures, Van reveals that the monsters she encountered are lust demons who prey on humans and live among them indefinitely in human forms. He explains that these demons are abundant and can emerge from anywhere. When Miho asks why they are after her, Van explains that it is her destiny that attracts them. He further informs her that the monsters will pursue her wherever she goes, and there is no escaping them. Emphasizing that she must confront them, Van departs from the forest, leaving Miho in profound shock. Later that night, while Miho was in her room, she hears something outside. As she looks out the window, Van swiftly enters the room. It turns out that another demon had attempted to reach Miho, but Van intervened, turning it into stone before it could reach her. Witnessing this, Miho panics and implores Van to become her personal bodyguard. Since Van has never taken on such a role before, he refuses. Still frightened by the situation, Miho persuades Van to stay with her for the night. Reluctantly, he agrees to protect her for the night. As Miho falls asleep, Van notices a scar on her chest, confirming that she is indeed Won Jong, the girl who tried to save him. In a flashback, it is revealed that Won Jong fulfilled her promise and returned to save the boys. However, Van's lust demon took control of his mind, causing him to fatally stab Won Jong in the chest, leading to her death. The following day, Miho wakes up to find that Van has signed a contract, agreeing to become her bodyguard. Later, Miho introduces Mr. Jang to Van, who consistently appears to lack social skills. Van will accompany Miho to the school, but since he doesn't know how to drive, Miho will have to drive the vehicle, much to her frustration. She attempts to engage in conversation with Van, but she receives no response to her questions. On Miho's first day as a teacher at the school, the students keep prying into her personal life, which makes her really angry. While Miho was taking attendance, one student, Young-ji, boldly leaves the classroom. Young-ji happens to be Baek-ju's granddaughter, and she skipped school to visit her best friend, Soo-ryan. The girl has been continuously abused by her boyfriend, who has private pictures of her. He threatens to expose her if she doesn't comply with his demands. The boy is keeping an eye on Soo-ryan to such an extent that he knows who visits her house. Afraid of the boy's warnings, Soo-ryan kicks her best friend out of the room. Worried about her friend, Young-ji reaches out to Miho for help, sharing everything Soo-ryan has been going through. Young-ji believes Miho can use her influential position to aid Soo-ryan, but Miho declines, advising her to go to the police instead. Exhausted from the constant threats of her boyfriend, Soo-ryan considers ending her life but finds herself unable to go through with it. Then, she remembers how Young-ji once told her about Benjol, a divine spirit of the forest. In times of desperation, when the weak and powerless had no one else to turn to, they sought out the spirit of Benjol and prayed. They believed that by offering something they possessed and earnestly praying, their stories would be seen and heard by the divine spirit. However, they also knew that in exchange for relieving them of their sorrows, they would have to pay a price. Left with no other choice, Soo-ryan decides to seek help from Benjol. As she performs the ritual, the effects are felt by Baek-ju and Van, who notice his dagger vibrating. The same insects that are associated with the presence of a lust demon are seen surrounding the tree where Soo-ryan prayed. At the villa, Mr. Jang introduces Johan to Miho as his nephew, and the two engage in conversation. While under the influence of alcohol, Miho calls Van, venting her frustration towards him. To her surprise, Van fulfills his promise and is there to support her. Seeing Van, Johan asks Mr. Jang about him. Upon discovering that he's the same man who killed Won Jong, Johan becomes quite concerned. He approaches Van and makes him feel guilty for his actions towards Won Jong, viewing him as a demon and doubting his ability to protect Miho. The next day, Johan decides to accompany Miho to the school. While on their way, Van instructs Miho to stop the car. Sensing something wrong, he heads into the forest, which frustrates Miho even more. She feels like she should be the one in control, but their roles are reversed. When Miho reaches the school, Young-ji suddenly steps in front of her car to get her attention. She informs Miho that Soo-ryan isn't feeling well and needs their help. Johan, being a priest, decides to check on Soo-ryan. After arriving at Soo-ryan's house, Miho tells Young-ji to go home. Meanwhile, Van conducts his own investigation and discovers that the tree where Soo-ryan prayed has vanished along with its roots. As insects start emerging from the hole, Van senses the demonic energy surrounding him. On the other hand, Miho and Johan arrive at the girl's room and find her laughing maniacally. It's clear that she's possessed by a demonic spirit. Johan quickly takes out his exorcism tools, like a crucifix and holy water. As he places the crucifix on Soo-ryan's chest, she screams and cries, confirming her possession. However, the exorcism has no effect on her, and she continues laughing out loud. Suddenly, a portal opens up, and before they know it, Miho and Johan find themselves in a forest. Meanwhile, Van is approached by Gungton, the boy who survived alongside him when they were injected with demon blood. However, it appears that Gungton has chosen a different path compared to Van. Before Johan and Miho can grasp what's happening, they are confronted by the tree. Now alive and more ruthless than ever, it has possessed Soo-ryan's body, convincing her that they must seek revenge on the boy who abused her. Upon seeing Miho and Johan, the tree attacks them. Johan tries to defend himself with his holy tools, but as a human, he is no match for Benjol's power. Benjol strangles Johan with its branches before turning its attention to Miho. However, just as it's about to harm her, Van arrives in the nick of time and fends off the attack with his magical dagger. As Benjol momentarily disappears, Van explains to Miho that they're in a realm created by Benjol. Miho pleads with Van to help Sue Ryan, but Van refuses, stating that she has already paid the price for her release of resentment and he can't defy the law. When Miho keeps calling him a coward, Van eventually agrees to help. After freeing Johan from the grasp of the branches, Van engages in a fierce battle against Benjol. Johan isn't as strong as Van, but he fights bravely against evil. However, their efforts prove futile against Benjol's power. Soon, both Van and Johan find themselves entangled in the tree's branches. With Van and Johan trapped, Benjol turns its attention to Miho, lifting her in its branches. Despite Miho's attempts to reason with Sue Ryan and offer her help in seeking revenge, Sue Ryan remains under the possession's sway. Amid the chaos, Van manages to free himself and launches an attack on the tree, rescuing Miho. Instead of fleeing, Miho tries to reason with Sue Ryan. She convinces her that Benjol cannot grant her revenge and encourages her to trust her. Miho's words have an impact, and Sue Ryan returns to her senses, pleading with Miho to save her. However, it becomes apparent that Benjol cannot leave Sue Ryan's body so easily. As it attempts to engulf her, a beam of light emits from Miho's body, triggering an explosion that forces Benjol back to the forest. Van cuts his hand and uses his blood to seal the portal between Benjol's forest and reality. The trio then brings the unconscious Sue Ryan back home, where Miho also loses consciousness. When Miho wakes up in the hospital with an 4 drip, she asks about Benjol's fate. Van explains that since Benjol is a spirit, it doesn't perish but rather returns to its realm. He adds that Benjol typically helps relieve others' grudges at a price, without resorting to such vicious revenge. Van believes that the spirit was corrupted by lust demons who used Sue Ryan as bait to target Miho. Miho approaches Sue Ryan in the adjacent room, and discovers that she is in a coma, determined to seek revenge on her behalf. She speaks to Mr. Jang and requests him to gather information on the boy, Kim Jun. Meanwhile, Johan informs the father about the recent incident. He informs the father about Van protecting Miho despite being a half-demon. While Johan believes Van won't harm her again, the father orders him to be cautious and not trust Van with Miho's life. He instructs Johan to stay focused on his mission, which is to awaken Miho so she can establish a protective barrier. On the other hand, Mr. Jang informs Miho that there have been numerous cases similar to Sue Ryan's involving dating violence and stalking by Kyan Jun. However, he has never faced legal consequences, not even once. This is because Kyan Jun's father holds significant influence as a director in Jeju Island society, allowing his son to escape punishment for his crimes. Miho utilizes her resources to find evidence against Kyan Jun. However, they are insufficient, and Kyan Jun receives only a 3-year sentence. Upon learning that Kyan Jun is attempting to seek forgiveness from Sue Ryan, Miho rushes to the hospital to intervene. Kyan Jun initially pretends to repent for his actions but soon drops the facade of remorse. He tells Miho that she can never put him behind bars and that he'll be out in no time. Infuriated by the boy's daring attitude, Miho punches him in the face and knocks him to the ground. Witnessing this, Van seeks Benjol's help in seeking revenge in exchange for one of Sue Ryan's belongings. Upon returning home from the hospital, Kyan Jun decides to retaliate against Miho by uploading private pictures of Sue Ryan. However, before he can do so, Benjol's branches extend into the room, piercing a sharp branch into Kyan Jun's head, killing him instantly. As a result, Sue Ryan wakes up from her coma and is now on the road to recovery. The next day, Baek-ju meets Miho at the school and introduces herself as Young-ji's grandmother. One of the teachers informs Miho that Baek-ju donates money to the school and frequently sends delicious treats from her restaurant to the teachers. Later, Miho spots Van with Baek-ju and wonders if the two know each other. That night, Miho receives news of Kyan Jun's death. She confronts Van and asks if he killed him, but Van denies it, stating that he doesn't harm humans. Miho criticizes Van for his cold demeanor, accusing him of lacking empathy and affection. She then gives Van a cell phone so she can reach him in times of need. As Miho returns to the villa, Johan warns Van to stay away from Miho, claiming that Van has killed her before and will do so again. A fight breaks out between the two. Van uses his magical dagger while Johan retaliates with his sword. Initially, Van appears to have the upper hand due to the demon blood within him. Despite knowing he's fighting a demon, Johan remains steadfast and eventually succeeds in restraining Van by binding his hands and feet with a holy lasso. Being a demon, Van is affected by the sacred object, causing him intense pain. As Johann begins to perform an exorcism on him, Van's eyes turn red, indicating that he is fully under the influence of the lust demon. With the strength of a demon, Van breaks free and grabs Johann by the neck, attempting to choke him. Suddenly, Miho arrives to check on Van and is shocked by the unfolding events. The lust demon inside Van rushes toward Miho, intent on ending her life. Just like before, he launches an attack at her, but this time, he uses his arm to prevent the dagger from piercing Miho's body. Frightened, Miho loses consciousness, while Van leaves the scene with tears in his eyes. Later that night, Gunton breaks another statue, releasing more lust demons. When Van sees the smoke in the sky, he knows that something is about to happen. As expected, a lust demon attacks a couple in the forest and consumes their organs. Soon, news of the recent murders spreads across the island. Unlike other lust demons who possess humans, this demon, also known as the fox demon, kills people and feasts on their insides. The next day, Miho heads to the mountain hill to find Van and treat his wounds. Using the phone's GPS, she tracks his location and finally finds him at the hilltop. She tries to apply bandages to his wounds, but Van pushes her away, insisting that she shouldn't be near him. Since he attacked Miho, he doesn't trust himself and believes it's better for her to stay away from him. Since Van has saved her life multiple times, Miho wants to help, but Van orders her to leave. Before departing, she expresses her frustration and hatred towards Van, vowing never to beg for his help again. With Van gone, Johann decides to become Miho's bodyguard. Initially reluctant, Miho eventually agrees. As her bodyguard, he accompanies her to the school, where students can't help but notice such a handsome priest. On her way to the classroom, Miho talks to Sue Ryan and advises her not to push herself too hard. She reassures Sue Ryan that time heals all wounds and suggests she give herself some time. Meanwhile, Gunton advises the fox demon to kill Miho if he wants to alleviate his pain. Subsequently, the fox demon continues to murder civilians and extract their insides. After the killings, Gunton finishes the job by slashing the victims multiple times with his dagger. On the other hand, it is revealed that Johann has an older brother named Chan-hee. They were separated at a young age, and Johann has been searching for him ever since. When Van overhears women discussing knife wounds on the recent murder victims, he heads to the university where the bodies are kept. Upon seeing the bodies, he immediately realizes that the work is being done by Gunton. When Miho learns about Johann's brother, she uses her resources to locate him. She takes Johann to the orphanage where he and his brother spent their early years until they were adopted. Miho's employee informs Johann that they have found his brother, who happens to live on the same island. While Miho returns home, Johann heads to the location provided by the employee. Meanwhile, Miho's best friend, who is also her colleague at the school, is getting married. As a gift, Miho surprises the couple with an unlimited stay at the Daehan Hotel suite room. In appreciation, the fiancé prepares a cake for Miho and sets out to deliver it to her. However, as he drives, someone suddenly speeds past him, forcing him to brake suddenly. As he steps out to investigate, he is attacked, likely by a lust demon. Suddenly, Van's dagger begins shaking. To his horror, Gunton has killed the fiancé. Just then, Miho arrives and is shocked to witness the scene unfolding before her eyes. Van approaches Gunton, determined to teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, Johann finds Chan-hee aboard one of the ships at the dock. Chan-hee is wearing a jacket that bears a striking resemblance to the one worn by the fox demon. The brothers recognize each other and reminisce about the day they were separated. It is revealed that the couple who adopted them had wanted to harvest their livers to save their own dying son. Initially, they attempted to take Chan-hee's liver, but it was not suitable for donation. Despite enduring severe pain, Chan-hee attempted to protect his brother from a similar fate. But before he could intervene, the couple took Johann away. Following another unsuccessful attempt, they abandoned Johann by the roadside, where he was eventually rescued and adopted by his Spanish father. In the present day, the two brothers embrace each other and vow never to leave each other again. On the other hand, Van confronts Gunton, who believes that Won-jong deceived them. Gunton suggests that Van should kill Won-jong to free himself from his pain forever. It becomes apparent that the more Van tries to maintain his humanity, the more drained and dull he will become. Therefore, the more he protects Miho, the weaker he will grow. Gunton proposes that Van should end his suffering by killing Miho once and for all. Meanwhile, Johann brings Chan-hee to the villa and introduces him to Miho. Later that night, while Johann is asleep, Chan-hee transforms into a fox demon and attempts to enter Miho's room while she is bathing. However, Van creates a protective barrier that prevents him from entering the shower room. Shortly after, Van arrives, and a fight ensues between the two. Utilizing his remarkable combat skills, Van manages to overpower Chan-hee. Van kicks him out of the villa, prompting Johan to wake up from the noise. Johan intervenes before Van can kill Chan-hee, pleading with him not to harm his brother. However, Van is unwilling to risk Miho's life again. He pushes Johan aside and pursues Chan-hee. As Van is about to confront the fox demon, Gunton arrives and launches a fireball at Van, weakening him. Gunton then holds a knife to Van's throat, giving him an ultimatum: join forces with him or face death. Meanwhile, Miho exits the shower area and is bewildered to find her bath destroyed. Tired of witnessing people getting hurt because of her, Miho heads to the hilltop to question Van about her identity. Injured, Van reveals to her that she is the reincarnation of a saint named Wonjong. Her awakening will lead to the destruction of the lust demon, which is why they are relentlessly attacking her. Upon hearing this, Miho vows to uncover her fate so she can prevent further casualties caused by her existence. In an attempt to delve deeper into Wonjong's history, Miho tries to utilize her resources but fails to find any information. Since Baekju has lived on Jeju Island for a long time and is knowledgeable about the myths and legends found in ancient books, Miho decides to seek her help in understanding Wonjong's past. Baekju explains that Wonjong is known as a person who repairs broken things, and one of those broken things is the barrier stone. Long ago, demons from the world were captured and imprisoned in Tamra. Now, with the barrier stone broken, lust demons are reappearing. To save the world from impending evil, Wonjong must establish a barrier. However, this can only be achieved if she is awakened. Han, desperate to save his brother, decides to try his best to convert Chan-hee back to human. To achieve this, Johan begins performing an exorcism on Chan-hee. Despite using a crucifix and holy ring, nothing seems to work. Despite being surrounded by divine power, the lust demon retaliates by knocking down the candles and the crucifix. Chan-hee urges his brother to end his life, but Johan cannot bring himself to do so. Together, they head to the orphanage where Chan-hee is kept. As soon as Miho touches Chan-hee's hand, the demon inside him awakens. Chan-hee breaks free and attacks Miho, but Johan intervenes, taking the blow instead. After throwing Johan against the wall, the demon attempts to kill Miho. However, before he can do so, Van arrives with his magical dagger. A fight ensues between the two, with Chan-hee briefly overpowering Van. He then turns his attention back to Miho. Just as the demon is about to strike Miho, Johan stabs him from behind, reluctantly doing something he never wanted to do. Van finishes off the demon by transforming it into a stone. We are taken further back into the past, where young Van and Gunton are seen in ancient Tamra. They were given magical daggers by a monk and were instructed to tame the weapons. Gunton attempted to follow the orders, but the weapon burned his demon's skin, making it difficult for him to grasp. When the monk began to rebuke Gunton, Van stepped in and agreed to take on the task in Gunton's place. As he picked up the dagger, he felt pain but eventually managed to tame the weapon. Witnessing Van's success, Gunton decides not to lose hope but to give it another try. This time, he also succeeded in gaining control over the weapon. The monk celebrated the success of his experiment, advising the demon boys to use the weapon to kill lust demons threatening the world. Thus, their harsh training began. Meanwhile, Wonjong, whom everyone thought of as a savior, continued her training, so that one day, she could create a new barrier and trap the demons in it forever. Upon realizing the boys were forced into becoming demon slayers, Wonjong decided to help them. She provided them with food in the dungeon and cared for them when nobody treated them as humans. One day, she asked the monk why the boys were being forced to become demon slayers. The monk responded that he had removed all human emotions from them, so their suffering didn't matter as they wouldn't feel it. Fast forward a few years, the boys had grown into adults. Utilizing their demonic powers and the magical daggers, they were eliminating the lust demons as the monk had instructed. However, while Van's focus was solely on the demons, Gunton had different intentions. Instead of ensuring the villagers' safety, he would slash them to death. After years of training, Wonjong finally returned to Tamra as promised. She planned to create a new barrier after the full moon, but before doing so, she spoke with the monk to ensure the safety of Van and Gunton. Remembering her promise, she asked the monk if he would release the boys once the new barrier was in place, as they wouldn't be needed without demons to fight. Reluctantly, the monk agreed. Later that day, Wonjong visited Van and Gunton in the dungeon and informed them about her agreement with the monk. While Van believed in her promise, Gungton remained skeptical. He feared that once the humans eliminated all the lust demons with Wonjon's barrier, they would no longer have any use for them. Gungton believed they should act before the humans could turn on them, finishing them off first. On the night of the full moon, Wonjon began the ritual to create a barrier to imprison the lust demons. Meanwhile, the monk summoned Van and Gungton and informed them that he would be performing a ritual to purify their bodies and souls. Falling for the trap, the boys entered the box, believing it was part of the purification process. However, the monk locked the door, turning it into a cage. His fellow monks then set the cage on fire, intending to kill Van and Gungton to eradicate all traces of demon blood from the world. When questioned about the agreement, the monk lied, claiming that Wonjon was aware of their plan. This deception fueled Gungton's existing belief that Wonjon was deceiving them, further enraging him against the humans. The duo attempted to break the cage, but all their efforts were in vain. Suddenly, they both transformed into lust demons, freeing themselves from captivity. Now fully transformed, Van and Gungton began to exact their revenge by killing the monks. While Van hesitated, Gungton pressured him to join the slaughter. Amidst the chaos, a spear pierced Van's chest, thrown by the head monk. Van easily removed the spear and proceeded to kill the monk. However, Gungton arrived and finished off the monk with his own hands. When Wonjon learned that Van and Gungton had transformed into their demon forms, she refused to continue creating the barrier. Doing so would banish all demons, including Van and Gungton. Baekju urged Wonjon to proceed with creating the barrier, citing the increasing presence of lust demons in the world. During their conversation, Van approached Wonjon and questioned if she had deceived them. Upon discovering Wonjon's reluctance to create the barrier, fearing it would seal him underground, he realized she hadn't deceived them. However, Gungton remained distrustful. As he prepared to attack Wonjon, Van intervened, leading to a confrontation between the two. Gungton managed to overpower Van and sent him off the cliff. A ray of light emanated from Wonjon's body. As Gungton prepared to attack Wonjon, Van suddenly appeared. When Van attempted to strike Gungton with his dagger, Gungton used Wonjon as a shield, causing Van's dagger to pierce into Wonjon's chest. In her final moments, Wonjon promised Van that she would find him in the next life and help him once more to rid himself of the demon within. With those words, she peacefully drifted into eternal sleep. A light emanated from her chest, sealing all the demons underground. Gungton, having become a lust demon, was also buried deep beneath the earth. Baekju transformed the monks killed that night into the Harabang sculptures. Many years later, a man was passing by the same mountain when he fell into a cave. There, he discovered Gungton, who had been sleeping for several years. Upon awakening, Gungton immediately attacked an innocent person. Present day, Miho finds Van on her balcony. Despite his reluctance to be near her, Miho taunts him, asking what took him so long. Van explains that he had to come because Miho kept making mistakes, like attempting to convert Johan's brother back. Miho tries to lift Van's dagger but is unable to do so. Van warns her not to try to befriend a lust demon like him, but Miho insists that she will, no matter what. After the death of her friend's fiancé, Miho holds herself responsible, believing that people are endangered because of her. Determined to fulfill her destiny, Miho seeks guidance from Baekju on how to become Wonjon. Baekju explains that becoming Wonjon isn't merely a desire. It requires rigorous training and immense sacrifice. Wonjon devoted her life to training, enduring pain akin to cutting bones. Undeterred, Miho expresses her willingness to do whatever it takes to protect those around her. Baekju then presents a mirror and instructs Miho to gaze into it. As Miho gazes into the mirror, she is transported to a forest, experiencing flashbacks of her own demise. The intense pain in her chest confirms Baekju's warning that the journey will be as agonizing as cutting bones. Realizing that Baekju can help her awaken, Miho decides to spend several days at her restaurant. Mr. Jang suggests that Miho should take Johan with her for security purposes. Although Van is displeased with the idea, he reluctantly accepts it. The trio departs for Baekju's restaurant, where Baekju provides Miho with ancient-style clothes that will aid her spiritually. Seeing Miho, Van is reminded of his old acquaintance, Wonjon. Baekju instructs Van to keep his distance from Miho for a while. Once settled at the restaurant, Baekju initiates Miho's training, teaching her the fundamentals of her powers, reminiscent of ancient times. As Miho practices creating a barrier, Van observes from a distance, keeping his distance as instructed. However, he eventually approaches Miho and engages her in conversation. Curious about Wonjon's personality, Miho asks Van for insights that might help her regain her memories. Van describes Won Jong as gentle, yet firm, but refrains from divulging further details. The next day, while Miho practices her abilities near the restaurant, Baekju, Van, and Johan enjoy lunch together. Suddenly, they all sense an evil energy nearby, indicating Guntan's presence. However, Miho remains unharmed as a ray of light emanates from her body, creating a protective barrier around her. Guntan retreats to the forest, with Johan following closely behind. Although Guntan is present, Johan seems unable to see him. Meanwhile, Van observes Miho using her powers, noticing her hanging in midair. As Miho taps into her energy, she experiences flashbacks of Van holding her during her final moments. Overwhelmed, she falls to the ground, but Van swiftly catches her, mirroring their past interaction. As Guntan breaks another Harabang statue using his blood, more lust demons are released from their underground prison. These demons immediately begin making their way towards the school. Sensing the impending danger, Baekju collapses, overwhelmed by the dark energy emanating from the approaching demons. Regaining her strength, Baekju advises Van to withdraw any affection he may have developed for Miho, as they are running out of time. She explains that once Miho regains her memories and becomes Won Jong again, any attachment Van has to her will only cause more pain when Miho's true self re-emerges, and their connection fades away. Baekju instructs Van to distance himself from Miho if he has already developed feelings for her. The trio have finally returned to the villa. As instructed, Van keeps his distance from Miho, who immediately senses it. However, this time, she doesn't ask questions and returns to her room. Later that night, Guntan awakens yet another evil spirit, but this time it is Gusansi. It is the demon that uncovers the dark side in people's minds. When they possess a person, that person struggles inside their own hell and ends up taking their own life. As Van's dagger vibrates, Van senses the impending danger. While Su Ryan was on her way home, she gets possessed by Gusansi. The next thing we see, she is on the rooftop of her school, ready to commit the unthinkable. Before Young-ji can get to her, she has already jumped off the rooftop. Saddened at the demise of her best friend, that night, Miho suddenly wakes up from her sleep, having sensed something sinister around her. The next day, on her way to school, she notices a group of students gathered around something. Curious, she investigates and discovers Su Ryan's lifeless body on the ground. Overwhelmed with emotion, she breaks down in tears, feeling guilty for yet another death. Amidst her tears, she asks Van why she hasn't woken up yet and why someone like Su Ryan had to pay the price. Van suggests Miho should leave if she can't handle the pain anymore. However, Miho disagrees, thinking it's not the right decision because she believes she won't be able to protect Van if she leaves. Van explains that he's just a lust demon who kills other lust demons, and there's nothing Miho can do for him since he's not human. Meanwhile, the Gusansi demon continues to possess other children at the school. Eventually, all the students fall under its control. Meanwhile, Miho heads to check the CCTV cameras, but the demon possesses her. It shows Miho all the people who died because of her. Under the demon's influence, Miho tries to save Su Ryan from falling but fails. Just before Miho succumbs to her own fears, Mr. Jang and Johan approach her and help calm her down. Meanwhile, other children are now fully possessed by the demon, attempting the unthinkable. Johan, an exorcist, tries to help them but can't save them all at once. Spotting speakers in the hall, Johan comes up with a plan. Mr. Jang starts